Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Bateman.
Here.
Mr. Blair.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Ori.
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Ping.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. With us tonight, we have our engineer, Cindy Klopfenstein, our Director of Finance, Mark Medler, Assistant City Manager, Corey Wright, Clerk of Council, Mr. Clark, City Manager, Dave Kennedy, our Acting City Solicitor, Jeff Levine, welcome, Chief Otto Huber, and our Police Chief, Michael Gabrielson. And with us, we have former Council Member Todd Osborne. So welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here tonight. We know you're not here to talk about all the business that we are going to talk about, much more exciting things. So you're in charge.
So for those of you that haven't attended one of these, it's because this is sort of a new service, a new sort of tradition that we started with the city. And actually, Corey brought this to the city from his former employee. And it's just a win-win because this is a city that sits here and swears in every single employee that ever comes. All of these guys, anything, even promotions. It's a big deal. And it's this group's way of saluting all the people that make up probably one of the most customer service orientated cities in Ohio, in my personal opinion. It's what we do. It's what we are all about. So what we're doing here is a program that Corey and Misty came up where we, in various increments, start recognizing our employees based on years of service. So far, Eva Wisby topped us all at 25 years. And it's very important to council. Kathy couldn't have been in on it quick enough. So we have 3 people tonight. I believe they're all 5-year of service. So I'm going to let the chief handle the 2 officers, and I'm going to introduce Becky. So I believe you're first.
Yeah. So this is just an example of the city of Loveland and how we're able to attract amazing employees and then retain them. So I just want to step forward here. Lieutenant Scott Humphrey, he was promoted to lieutenant in 2019. He's currently assigned to the night shift. He serves in many specialty areas. He's a firearms instructor, taser instructor, works for the bike patrol. He's a member of Claremont County SWAT team. He also manages all of our department training, which these days is a daunting task by itself to make sure that all of our officers get training, and we get about 150 hours or so, each of our officers a year that he manages. In addition to that, he just recently completed, he also was in charge of our FTO program. He just completed a 2-week instructor skills course, which will allow him to train other, not only just our own officers, but other local law enforcement at the academies. So we're very fortunate to have Scott here with all of his experience in the many specialty areas that he has, not only training us, but other officers in the Lieutenant Humphreys.
Thank you very much. 2 of you.
Do that again. Here, I'll put down behind. I love
We also have Officer Mike Becker with us. He joined LTD in 2018, began working patrol, went into the criminal investigation section for a period of time, and is currently assigned as a school resource officer with Loveland City Schools at the intermediate schools. He's a certified ALICE instructor. Earlier this year, if you follow our Facebook page, you might have seen him star in a few school safety videos that we had him do, which is something we started this year. And just to give you an idea, few people realize the demands of an SRO. Mike is the primary point of contact and serves over 1,400 students and staff at the school. So that's all his responsibility.
Sorry about that.
So again, another great opportunity to attract and retain an exceptional employee. So Mike, thanks for that.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you so much.
Can we do a picture with both the council members? Yeah. All right, let's do that.
I'm going to point you out to your round up there.
You spoke too early.
Right.
Thank you.
I think we each ought to get a turn, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like the shark. Yeah.
Mike, see you.
Yeah, with an escort.
They said the kitty table.
Say bye to me.
I'm so glad I got to see the
I'm glad I
mayor
got to
of
see you
Loveland.
too. Thanks for coming. Need to get her out more.
Too shy. Just too shy.
Okay, so I know I sound like a little bit of a broken record when I get up here, but the people that I get to share this building with, they really are family, and I definitely spend more time with them than I do my own. And we're very fortunate, and I mean it when I say customer service. The group of people in this building, from Corey to Mandy to everyone, that's what we do. You're not always dealing with residents on the finest situations, and I've never once have ever heard any resident ever be treated with complete and total respect. And one of those people that exemplifies that is Becky. Becky Noel has started here as a part-time building and zoning clerk, and literally took the position off, took it over. I don't know if people know what, when you come to the city, you're getting your building permit, you're getting all your permits here. So she must juggle inspections, plan review, permits, modifications, getting stuff to me for historic preservation, letting Corey know about things that need to go in front of P&Z and Board of Zoning Appeals, all going on in the course of a day. And at any given time when we need a hand for, hey, we need some help setting up for concert in the park, Becky's hand goes up. Hey, we need help coordinating the Homerama. Ran with the whole thing. Her and Krista. The wellness program. We have a very neat wellness program for our employees here and staff. Mandy and Becky, and the whole wellness team just runs with it. And that's what it is, how she finds time to deal with all of that. And to be a team worker, reviewing. I'm talking about literally reviewing things we write, and all the way down. So we're really happy to have Becky here, and I can't believe it's even been 5 years. Pure joy to work with. We're giving her a present today, but just so you know, pretzels from Ramsey's is like her go-to. So I just want to say congratulations, Becky, and it is very well deserved. The city has been served well in these 5 years by Becky, and I hope it's many, many years more. So.
And we'll do a picture. Dave, you have to be in this picture.
So does Corey.
And so does Corey.
Mike will do that. Okay.
Come on. Okay. Stand right here. We're going to talk about you for a minute. I'm fortunate tonight to introduce Brittany Dold. She's our new operations assistant, full-time with the Loveland Police Department. First, I want to thank the mayor and council for continuing to support the police department and helping us fill the critical roles that we have there. She's definitely filling a critical need that we have at the police department. So, and we've definitely, she's been with us for a week, and we're already turned the fire hose on. So, a little bit about Brittany. She's a longtime resident of Batavia and came to us from Claremont County Municipal Clerk of Courts, where she was there for the last 10 years. During her time with the court, she quickly became the go-to person for new and special projects. This will definitely be helpful with the police department, and as you all know, with Loveland, just as it is, because we definitely take full advantage of the other duties as assigned clause that is everybody's job description. So, in addition to her experience, Brittany's personality and commitment to customer service is what set her apart for us during our search. In her personal time, you'll find Brittany spending time with her children, Ansley and Bennett, who are here in the back. She also enjoys sand volleyball, kayaking, dinner with friends, and catching Bengals games. Joining Brittany this evening, in addition to our children, our parents, Ginger and Chris Cash, and several close friends who are too many to list. Yes. So welcome, Brittany, and the mayor will issue the oath of office.
I will. I do want to just say why we do this. One, we'd like to meet you. This is the only chance that council gets to meet our new employees, and the only chance that you get to meet your council members. So that's the main reason we do it. And it also, I think, impresses upon employees that how serious we take your service with the city, that you represent the city whether you're on the clock or not on the clock, and that means something to us, that we respect you and expect you to respect the city. And it's our chance to let you know we're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. I state your name.
I, Brittany Dold,
Solemnly swear that I will
solemnly swear that I will
support the Constitution of the United States,
support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Loveland,
of the City of Loveland,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of Operations Assistant
the duties of Operations Assistant
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Want to thank my family and friends for coming tonight to support me and for this opportunity that I get to have to be a part of Loveland, and I am excited for my future here. So thank you all.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here. Congratulations.
We're doing another picture.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Brittany.
Thank you. Let's do a picture time.
Pictures.
Trick needs acting.
Ordering things. No, I'm just gonna do you want to? You're changing it up. I changed it up too. Oh,
Need some tape on that thing.
thanks.
That's cool. Fruit King. Yeah. That's awesome. Boy, I kind of have a feeling they killed the period before council, didn't it? Oh,
Thank goodness. Gonna be a wow.
I think our form just went down a little
They might
bit.
not have a program.
Good evening, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be before you this evening to present a check to the Karen Wellington Foundation. Every year, the firefighters do a fill-a-boot project for some type of a cancer project charity that we present to. In the past, we've done Cancer-Free Kids, the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, the Shriners Burns Institute, many charities along the way. This year, we did our 2 fill-a-boots and our waiting tables at the Ramsey's restaurant with the mayor, who was our guest of honor bartender that night, and we were able to raise $8,000 for the Karen Wellington Foundation. So I have Lori Falk is here with us from the Wellington Foundation, and I'd like to let her tell you a little bit about the foundation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Falk, and I'm here with Colleen and Penny. We are 3 recipients from the foundation, so we each are breast cancer survivors. And once we were awarded a gift from the foundation, we came back and we're like, we're all in. This foundation is awesome. How do we get involved? So we've been involved ever since. Just to tell you, thank you for welcoming us to your lovely city. I wanted to give you a quick rundown on what the Karen Wellington Foundation is all about. So if you haven't heard about us, we provide gifts of fun to families and to women and their families living with breast cancer. And what that can look like can be anything from a vacation to a spa day to concert tickets to skydiving. We have requests for skydiving as well. So real quickly, I'll give you a history. Karen was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 30. She had 2 small children. She fought it for 10 years, and in that 10 years, she packed a lot of living in. She did not want to be known as the mom with breast cancer. In fact, she didn't want anybody to know that she had cancer. A lot of her friends during that time would say, hey, go use my house in Naples for a week at the beach. You need to rest and enjoy the week. So she would do stuff like that. So she told her husband, Kent, who started the foundation, when we beat this, we're going to take one family on vacation that's living with breast cancer every year with us. So that year that she passed, Kent said no flowers, and he sent alone one family on vacation to start the foundation. So now we're in our 15th, going on 16th year, and we've given over 2,000 gifts of fun, and we're continuing to grow. And I want to let y'all know, too, that if you know anybody living with breast cancer, currently, you should go to our website and nominate them for a gift of fun. So cancer has no rules, and neither do we. So you can nominate at any time. And the really cool thing about it is that you are helping people in your community right here, all in Cincinnati. And we do have chapters in other cities. But anyway, just want to let you know what a good cause this is. So we really, really appreciate being here tonight, and we appreciate the support of your lovely city as well. Same thing, Kelly? Just remember, if you do know somebody living with breast cancer, it's easy to go to our foundation website, KarenWellingtonFoundation.org, and nominate somebody. So we'll take care of them for sure. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say anything, I would say thank you so much to the fire department for doing what they did. We did not know the amount before we got here tonight, so we can do a lot of damage with $8,000. I just thought I would let you guys know that. We know how to throw a party, and we will get so many women and their families on fun activities. One thing that I would like to keep in mind too, 30% of the fun activities we send families on are last experiences for these women. So keep that in mind. Breast cancer is still taking people. There is still a lot of hope though for people like the 3 of us. We're all past 5 years of survivorship, all 3 of us. So just know that whether it's somebody that's, potentially on their last few months or someone who's just new into the process, we will take a nomination for anyone. And then also if you know anyone who has a vacation home, Sky Miles, extra cash that wants to donate, right? We would love to tell you also how you could be a donator to our foundation if you're interested in that as well. So thank you. Thank you to the foundation for their donation.
council,
Yes,
mayor, and
yes,
everybody
if
up
you
front
please
so we
take-
can.
we'll do a picture. Holding a
I was
big
gonna
check.
grab it. Who's taking the picture?
Yes. I got like a lot of good
You just sit
You want to stand by the fire? Let's go. Let's do bus.
Yeah. Congratulations.
You got all that money in food? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. That's really big of you guys. Thank you. Thank you. This is amazing. Thank you. Oh, do you know
Oh, good to see you here. Oh, down to business. All right, open forum. Nobody signed up for that. Next is review and approval of minutes from the October 25th, 2022 City Council meeting. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next is a public hearing. Can we have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move to open the public hearing on a proposed text amendment to Chapter 1156, Table of Permitted Uses.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yep.
Motion carries 7-0.
No one signed up for the public hearing, so can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, we will wait to talk about it till we get to that point in the agenda. Next is the second reading of an ordinance. Go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance establishing certification pay for classified public works employees and repealing ordinance 2075.
Thank you. Is there any comment on this ordinance? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Ordinance 110 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy.
So, I think White Pillars is one of the more unique subdivisions in the city. One of the reasons it's unique is the fact that it's made up of both dedicated roadways and undedicated roadways. Undedicated roadways are roads that where they opted to build to a standard that of roads that the city would not accept. So those roads, which is made up of Turtle Creek, Pewter Court, and a portion of Valley View, which for perspective is the townhome portion of the White Pillars. All of those roads, the sidewalks, everything there is contracted out by the White Pillars HOA. Over the years, working with Mr. Orso with the HOA, I believe I met him when city was we were using the same mowing contractor when we were when White Pillars was empty. They reached out to the city about whether or not we might be interested in contracting out to cover the plowing of the undedicated roadways. And first and foremost, to me, it was public safety. Second was the simple fact that those are our police cars, even dedicated or undedicated. When Chief Huber or Chief Gabrielson is trying to get there, they're our residents. I knew we didn't, and talking to Scott, we knew we didn't want to tackle the common parking areas. We didn't want to tackle the sidewalks. But in speaking to Scott, when you're dealing with the contiguous roadways, it was something he felt very easily we could handle. So Kent Orso with the HOA could not be more reasonable, excellent to work with. It's like we both agree, why don't we try this for 1 year? If it's a bust for the city or a bust for them, we can all just bow out gracefully, and it was mutual. So when we factored in labor, road salt, and fuel, labor, that is typically overtime labor, we came up with what we felt was our best estimate, which was $300 per 1,000 feet, which at 3,700 feet, linear feet of undedicated roadways, divided that, it ended up being $300 times 3.75, which is $1,125 per snowing event. We've extended that offer. They've accepted that offer. Joe Braun had a really nice basic contract. Biggest part of that contract is that we're not liable for any damage to any roadways. It's ironclad. And we would then, if you look at fiscal impact, if you look at last year, we had 6 snow events. We would have made $6,750, which ironically is almost exactly 50% of our annual salt bid. So Mark and I have decided that as those monies come in, we'll just use it directly to the salt. It's just more tangible. Do you really want to offset salaries? Nah. Do you really? So we felt that we wanted to see it get used right towards our salt. It just seems funner, I guess, cleaner. So the agreement and the legislation is simply authorizing me to execute an agreement for snow and ice removal of the undedicated roads within White Pillars. Parties agree the agreement shall expire December 31st, 2023, if not mutually renewed at an earlier date by both parties. And I think this is a good thing that the city's doing, and it's a little more common than I realized in talking to Joe. And I just think from our standpoint, it's a win. We're there. It's not going to take a lot of our time. We could potentially have half of our salt paid for. So that's all I had, Mayor.
All right. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Hart. Have to ask a question.
It's not about the actual salt. This is about what would constitute a snow event. Is there? I don't want to get in the weeds on that, but is there any?
This is basically when we're plowing White Pillars. It's White Pillars is a tier 3 road, as you learned from Loveland U, right, Cindy? It's a tier 3 road, which means it's sort of the last ones they get to, while treating, which would typically be plowed and salted on one pass. If we all agreed, I'm not going to petty them over if they go back over in one pass, but typically White Pillars is done in one big pass at a level 3 road coverage, and all of those undedicated roads will be done. So anytime we're there on White Pillars, that is a snow event.
Okay.
So I think this is a savings to the HOA. They're still going to contract out the common area, the common parking areas, and the sidewalk.
Vice Mayor.
Just to be clear, it's not just if there's snow. It's if there is, for instance, frozen rain. Because in my experience living here in Loveland, we have far more occasions where I see Public Works out spreading salt as opposed to plowing. And I assume it's both.
Yeah, it's both. If we salt it or if we plow it.
Okay.
We treat their roads in either snow or ice. It is a snow event, and they are more than willing to, because their contracting is inconsistent. They're being shared by other subdivisions. They're up there much, much later. He said they looked last time they were there with red shovels they got from Walmart, plunking away at the salt, and that's what led them to go. Their city's got to be able to do this better than us, and I'm sure they were paying. So I think it's just it's fair.
Understood.
We'll get through this first year.
Yes, Mr. Blair.
Just curious, what is an undedicated roadway?
So an undedicated roadway, and Cindy can add to this, is when you lay out, when Cindy meets with a subdivision, they say, here's the standards upon which our roads must be built for us to assume those roads, take over those roads, those water mains, all of that stuff. They may say, you know what, we want to build them to this standard, we'll maintain them ourselves. And that is what they did through the HOA, which encompasses the entire townhome portion of it. And they maintain all of it. And that's so with that, they're undedicated.
Okay. So how much other undedicated roadways are there in Loveland?
That's a Cindy question. Not many.
Do they qualify for standard treatment in the road replacement program? No.
No, we won't we will never repave that road. That doesn't change the fact that we don't maintain that road. This is simply snow and ice removal.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bateman.
While we're on the subject of that's an interesting point, and I'm wondering, does undedicated roads, the standards not being the same as dedicated roads, does snow removal or treatment have any degradation to those roads? Does that cause those roads to get worse as a result? Are they more prone to that, I guess is what I'm asking?
They still make them out of the same asphalt material. What we usually see, like in White Pillars, is they narrow the road.
Yeah.
They try to pack more properties in, so they skinny up the road. So that's one of the ways that they don't meet it. They could also maybe make the base a little bit thinner by a couple of inches and try to save some money there. That's usually what we see. But as far as the asphalt surface, from what I've seen, it's all been the same as our roads.
Okay. Well, I think this is Dave, you're always preaching about customer service. I think this is a really good example of us finding a new customer, and I'm sure we'll be giving them great service. The only question will be how soon after snow emergency do we get an email from one of these residents saying that the Public Works did a fantastic job clearing their street.
And I'll be honest with you, I've never had an original idea in my life. They came up with this idea and asked us to run with it, and it just made sense. Kent Orso's been a great guy to work with, and very reasonable. So,
yes, Mr. Ping.
The fact that these are undedicated and perhaps narrower would imply that maybe there's reasons why we have not taken them on before. For example, the difficulty in plowing because it's narrower than usual, or cars or whatever. I think I know there was that the city solicitor put in language to address the HOA coming back on us for damage to the roadway from the plowing process. I presume that we have some sort of protection against just damage to vehicles and things in general, because that can happen when you're cleaning a roadway and so forth. But does it make any difference legally that this is undedicated versus dedicated in terms of our protection against those kinds of events or anything?
I don't
have an attorney here.
If you're looking at the acting city solicitor, the answer to that question is I would need to talk to Mr. Braun about it. I have not reviewed this contract personally, and I don't want to speak about anything relating to liability. But I can certainly get an answer for that at some point tomorrow.
He worded number 3 to say owner refuses and agrees to hold the city harmless from any liability for loss or damage to the streets and or structures in the street which may result from the city's snowplows, salt trucks, including possible damage from salt and ice melting chemicals. The what this is used for in some subdivisions is let's just use Chimney Ridge. Let's say Chimney Ridge was 8 phases, and phase 1 was in, but they haven't put the top layer on other phases, but there's some homes back there. And they say, hey, look, could you help us out? We know they're not undedicated. They're undedicated roads. Will you? And then we would do this agreement. Because originally, language I took out of this was, if during such time the roads become dedicated, we had to change that because these will never become dedicated. So that told me that in townships and other communities, they do this as a service to help portions of the road where the road hasn't been fullest, but there may be some houses on that. So that seems to be the process. But I think Joe wrote this that we're 100% protected, and I've been on those roads. Corey and I drove a Valentine's ladies in a big old trailer and realized we had to turn it around in a cul-de-sac, and there was ample room. There was ample room for the plows. And remember these. Scott will adjust with what he needs as far as for the trucks. So, and we now have 6 fleets, 6 plows in our fleet now because you're fixing that. Remember the bed that you're fixing. We have more than enough trucks to do this, and we have more than enough salt truck to do this. So, well,
Mr. Ori.
Just a final comment, I guess. Having walked those streets up there many times for elections, but we're already up there doing the regular streets, and the only difference that I've ever noticed since I brought it up is the width. I mean, that's it. I think this is a win-win for the city and for White Pillar. So.
Yeah, I think they'll be happy. So.
Anyone else? All right. Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for snow, ice removal of the undedicated streets within the White Pillar subdivision.
Any comments on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Resolution 111 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy?
I'm just going to give the basics and let Chief Huber fill in. This for the 2022 and the 2023 budget that'll be in front of you at the next meeting. In our out years, which was our out years of our CIP, we have had in both those budgets we've had a new ladder truck planned for 2024. And as Chief Huber monitors the emergency vehicles, just as Chief Gabrielson monitors police cruisers, it became very apparent to Chief Huber that we'll be lucky to get the ladder truck by 2024 if we order it today. And it'd be one thing to get it in place on time, but it's also, unlike the police cruisers, also a significant financial impact by delaying it. Right off the bat, the price of the vehicle will increase 8%, which is $93,896 on December 1st, and then every quarter from there on another 3%. So Suffolk Corporation certainly recognizes this and gives everyone the opportunity. What you're doing is simply ordering it. You have now, between now and approximately June of 2024 at the earliest, to have all the financing in place. Suffolk has an excellent lease program. We'll see where we're at as we approach it. We would likely go for the lease program. We may take some of the proceeds from the sale of Station 63 based on the timing towards that. But it's certainly, Chief Huber certainly recognizes we need to get the ordering process going on this ladder truck to replace the old Quint. So before I call it and let you turn over your questions to him, this is, if you read that purchase agreement, it couldn't be simpler. You're just agreeing at this price. We're locking in that price that changes, goes up $96,000 on December 1st. And then again, every quarter. So it certainly behooves the city financially, just like you did by replacing the chassis and saving significant money. It behooves us to do this now. I'll have this order in Suffolk's hands by tomorrow morning because it's just a no-brainer. So I'll let you give all your questions to Chief Huber.
Do you have anything you want to add before we ask questions?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. We're seeing what I would consider a industry issue across the industry. It's not just one manufacturer. It's not just one community. We're seeing exorbitant cost increases in fire apparatus. A lot of it due to inflation, a lot of it due to the supply chain. Typically, we would order a fire truck and get it in about 14, 15 months. The manufacturers are now telling us you'll be lucky to get it in 3 years. They just simply, I'll take you back to, you remember when all the Ford pickup trucks were sitting in the speedway over in Kentucky because they just couldn't get this little chip? Well, think about that. multi times with a customized piece of fire apparatus that every little piece of that comes from a different manufacturer. So they have to assemble all those little pieces in a manufacturing plant. We happen to buy from Suffin, which is the one here in Ohio. They have to get all of those pieces together before they can start that fire truck, because they can't allow that fire truck to take up space in the manufacturing plant while they're waiting on one small part. It would back up and it would put them out of business. So they have to assemble everything, because your fire trucks are actually assembled from the axles to the frames to the engines to the transmissions to the switches to the red lights. All of this, most of which are manufactured somewhere else, have to be brought together because they are a totally customized vehicle. And so what we're seeing in that cost is exorbitant. And so industry-wise, they're talking about this type of truck will cost about could be $300,000 to $500,000 more by the time we would normally be expecting this truck to be delivered. And it's not just fire trucks; it's ambulances, the same thing. The township just purchased their engine ahead of schedule at their last meeting, and they've got an ambulance that they're going to be replacing in December. So they're spending about $1.1 million now to save $200,000 to $300,000 over the next 3 years. And generally, we lease. It's always been what we've done here. The city gets a favorable leasing rate, and it's a dollar buyout kind of leasing rate. And this truck is due to be replaced anyway. It was part of our fleet replacement schedule. I would really encourage the council to move forward to try to save on this. It's going to be very, very costly not to.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Mr. Bateman?
So the lead time for the production of this 75-foot rear mount aerial ladder truck is 19 to 21 months. Is the payment upon delivery?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then could you tell me a little bit about? I mean, it looks like it's like newer. This would replace a vehicle from 2004 that has 7,000 hours on it. Can you describe some of the significant upgrades that this piece of equipment has over its what it would be replacing?
Well, this one will have more up-to-date hydraulics and more up-to-date electronics on it, and more up-to-date safety features. Currently, the NFPA regulations have changed, obviously, over the last 20 years. So the safety issues that are involved in building a fire truck now, it used to be that the pump panel on a fire truck, where the operator runs the pump, was all manual. It's all electronic now. And it's all electronic so that things can't happen that would endanger the firefighters inside. So you couldn't make a mistake and close the wrong valve and things of that nature. So you have that updated technology to it. You also have, like anything else today, everything is electronic. So everything is ran by a computer today, which also helps us as far as being able to, the newer trucks now, we can actually connect those to a laptop that we have that can tell us what's wrong with the truck instead of sending it over to Sharonville to a
fleet
service company that would charge us $1,100 to tell us, oh, the fuse is blown. And that happens. Believe me, that happens. They're very expensive, customized vehicles and very expensive to maintain. And I might also note that we will be offering, the city will be offering for sale the old apparatus. That will come in another ordinance, I'm assuming, later on this week, so that because there are a lot of communities that will not even be able to afford a new truck now. And so on the used market, the value of that will be going up as well. So we'll be able to offer that through the Ohio Municipal League, offer it on GSA, on the bidding, online bidding, to try to get that vehicle. And we're hoping that we can get somewhere between 175 to 250 on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Blaine?
Chief, did we lease the truck that you're talking just talking about?
The one we're getting rid of?
Yes.
No, we had a bond on that truck. City had a bond on it.
Okay, so theoretically, what's the term of the lease on the new one?
Usually 15 years.
And then it's time to get a new one. And whoever leases it to us, it's their problem.
No. It's a dollar buyout lease. It belongs to the city. It belongs to the city after that. Leases do not go against your bond rating.
Gotcha.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, Chief, just it might be a good occasion to talk a little bit about how Loveland Sims Fire Department is funded. Insofar as you're a private fire company, we contract as a city, as does Sims Township, for your services. And we respectively then own our fire equipment. Sims owns it. You mentioned Sims had to make a purchase last year. Do they also have a Quint, and was it of comparable cost? And if you could just, I guess, explain that for us, it'd be great.
Well, because the difference makeup in the township has low-rise commercial buildings. So they have 4 and 5 story buildings that needs a larger ladder than what you have. So they have about a $2 million ladder truck that sits in the safety center in Sims Township that not only protects the Sims Township Fieldsville Road, I'm gonna call it industrial business area. It also covers the City of Loveland Industrial Park. So that's a specialized piece of equipment for those large commercial buildings. And that piece of equipment is called an elevated platform. That piece of equipment is about $2 million. So yes, so they have that, and they have comparable equipment as does the city. The city owns their equipment. The township owns their equipment. The city owns their fire stations. The township owns their fire stations. And so it's kind of equal. Sims is bigger than Loveland. So this year, I think with the new census, I think the city now is up to about 46% of the cost of running the fire department, the rest being on the township.
And then just one other thing I'd bring up is we passed a fire levy in May. And I assume that some of those proceeds, since it was designed to pay for equipment and personnel, would apply eventually to whatever we do.
When the lease is put together and the lease is paid by multiple, we run a lot of things out of Fund 24, and then we compensate by the contract that we spend. So what we're doing in the budget process, for example, as the population impacts our overall contract, Chief Hugh will give us the number, and then Mark and I will divide it among now an additional fund to make everything work. A lot of the operational things come out of 24, and that's the way it works out. But as those funds increase or decrease in the total monies they bring in, adjustments are made. But we'll have to, once we just really need to see where we are with Station 63. That'll have a lot of impact on what we do with the lease. And maybe we are putting some cash down to reduce it. It's one of those we have quite a bit of time to think about it. Thank you.
Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I was looking through the descriptor in here in the of the actual unit. It talks about having some options, some variability in those options, like the pump rate and the tank capacities and things like that. Do we fall to the higher end of those capacities, or lower end of the capacities, or we?
Well, you base those on your ISO. It's on the needs for the risk of the community.
Okay.
So if we had an industrial park that was, say, a petroleum manufacturing or had some high risk, that we would want a larger capacity pump. If we were in a rural area where we didn't have a lot of water, we would want a larger tank on that.
Makes sense. So what did we go? Does that affect the cost very much? Is that
no, it doesn't.
Is that
I mean
in terms of
if we raised it up, yes, it would. The more options you add to the truck, the more you do to a truck. Yeah, it raises it up for sure.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement with Sutphen Corporation for a new ladder truck for the Loveland Sims Fire Department.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Resolution 112 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy?
So the 2023 budget that'll be presented to City Council at the next meeting is going to include for equipment to do police cruisers, and including funding for outfitting the units. Excuse me. And then recently, Chief Gabrielson and Lieutenant Spock and I met with Enterprise Fleet to go over what units were available, and quickly realized that the preferred unit, which is police interceptors, were not available, would not come in until probably about the same time we'd get the fire truck. And they did tell us that there were some open orders on the Dodge Pursuits. Lieutenant Spock and Chief Gabrielson did some research. I actually made a phone call to the OSP, Ohio State Troopers, to get some more information on them. And at the end of the day, it is a good alternative. As Lieutenant, I quoted Lieutenant Spock, Dodge Pursuits are an excellent alternative. The interceptors are used by the largest police agency in the state, the Ohio State Patrol. I did a little more searching. The units are also on patrol in Boone County, Kentucky, Trotwood, Ohio, and the Indiana State Troopers also use them. I noticed also Springfield Township Fire Department uses it as support vehicles. So it would appear, and I'm going to let Chief Gabrielson fill in. One of the things that Chief Gabrielson and I talked about right when he started on was that we wanted to lean away from leases and go back to purchasing of the vehicles. I think at the time that we did that in the past, they were the right, but the rates and the prices were just coming in. It made no sense. And as opposed to what you were discussing with the fire truck, you don't own the vehicle for $1 when it's over. So we just thought it was better off to switch over. So, but they do offer a service that does appeal to the department, and Chief can go on that. It's part of their fleet maintenance, a small fee, and he can go over that. At the end of the day, this is simply the fee to authorize me to order the vehicles through Enterprise. There's no upfront money. That's why we can do it now, knowing that the payment would be in 23. Hopefully we would see them sometime in April, May. At that point, the budget will be approved. We would likely come back to you for a separate legislation to have them all outfitted, because Chief needs to see what can and what doesn't fit. So I'm going to stop there and let Chief Gabrielson wrap that up.
Chief?
Yeah, we exactly like the fire department, where we do have a replacement for our vehicles. These are not only the mobile offices, but our citizens and our officers rely on them to make sure they get us there and get us there safely. So we do have a replacement program for them. Essentially, once the maintenance cost on the vehicle begins to outweigh the cost of the vehicle itself, even if it has been paid off or was if it's not a leased vehicle, we look at replacing it. So anything that we had ordered previously in the last time we got a new marked vehicle was 2021. All of our orders for 2022 were canceled. So fortunately, we were in good enough shape because of the replacement process that we were on, that we could go without a marked car for a year. I will tell you, one of the cars that's being replaced off of this is a 2012 Chevy Tahoe. And that has definitely gone through its service life, and the replacement, the parts that we're replacing are far out of way. We definitely need to get a new vehicle for that. The other one is because we added a new SRO. The SRO needs a vehicle that takes a vehicle out of service that's available to the patrol officers. So we needed to increase the fleet by one in order to have a vehicle up our fleet because of that, because it is out of service a large majority of the time. So those are the two vehicles that why we need them. And then again, the timing, everything has been canceled. The orders, I believe, for Ford opened for about 1 day. Chevy was just maybe about a week, and they were closed, so we missed those opportunities. Dodge is our only opportunity at this point, and if we don't order now while it's open, we may not see one at all in 2023. So So that's the reason why we're here. And as far as the equipment, exactly what we're going to need, we will reuse as much as equipment from the cars as we can. But as they change model years, things don't, commuter mounts don't fit, the cages don't fit. So we have to wait until we actually physically touch one, our outfitter, to see what we can reuse. So we're really not sure exactly what that cost is going to be. Worst case scenario, it's upwards of probably just under $10,000 per car is what we would be looking at as a worst case scenario to outfit by the time we add all the extra equipment we need.
Very good. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Blair?
So we're going to buy these and not lease them.
Correct.
Didn't we lease the ones we have bought in 21?
We did. The pricing for leasing had a significant increase. I believe from the last time we leased, it went up about $300 a month. Essentially, by the time you did the math, in a 5-year lease, you were paying quite a bit more than the cost of the vehicle. And then again, the residual value, because they do have significant residual value these days, that all went back to the fleet management and not us. So this way we'll actually be able to maintain that residual value ourselves if we choose to sell it.
So the increase, you're saying the increase, if we were to lease it now, doesn't apply to the vehicle we leased in 21.
Correct. That lease price was fixed. Everything that we previously had, that was a contract, that was a set monthly lease charge throughout the life of that lease. But
now looking at the new environment, financing for the lease is way more expensive in the long run than buying them.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So I'm just looking at the packet with page 26, which is entitled the Open-End Equity Lease. Would that document not apply to the purchase, or is that just there for a description of what we're getting?
Yeah, and that's their standard form. You have to look at packet page 27. What we're paying is that capitalized price reduction, and then you'll go down and you'll see that the only monthly reoccurring fee we're paying is $25.01 per vehicle. And we're not doing it's just we're getting the vehicle through. They're sort of our buyer, but they don't care how we finance it. And with this, we're choosing not to lease it. That it's simply the form is that we are doing an out purchase. I actually called him about that, and he said, "Dave, that's just our form."
Okay.
And he walked me through it, and you can if you look through the form, you'll see our only recurring payment is the $25.01.
And we'd pay for it in 23, I assume.
Yeah, it's in the 23 budget. Chief Grabelson and I put enough for the price of each unit plus 10,000 more for outfitting.
Okay.
We've got the funds. We have enough for each vehicle fully outfitted. The GPS units are from a different line item. The vehicle kits are from a different line item. And the MVRs hopefully will get funded through a grant, because what it'll do is it'll start with the newest vehicles first.
May I ask one more question? Yeah. Chief, I noticed there's a driver's side ballistic door panel. Is that like bulletproof? Is that
bullet resistant?
Bullet resistant?
Yes.
Why not have them on both doors?
We run one officer cars, so they put them into the driver's side of the vehicle. That is an option, but that is a significant cost to add that option.
Thank you.
Bateman?
It's a shame about the Interceptor not being available. I'm just curious, looking at is this less expensive? The Dodge Pursuit less expensive than the Interceptor, or are they comparable?
Yeah, all the cars are fairly comparable. They run anywhere between that 48 and 52 mark. They're all within a few $1,000s of each other.
And we're not really settling. It's just it's available. Is that more the issue?
Correct. All three, whether it was a Chevy or the Ford or the Dodge, all three of them are absolutely fantastic vehicles. Traditionally here, we've either purchased Ford or Chevy. The Fords appear to be a little bit wider. I haven't actually sat in the new Dodge, so it's just, it's personal preference. It's, if you ask somebody, a lot of it's personal preference, but The Dodges are used quite heavily by a lot of large agencies, and they're very happy with them.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Just a quick question. So, are we totally out of sedans, or do we still have?
Yes. Well, you can buy the Charger. 23 might be the last year for the Dodge Charger sedan, and then they're going to phase that out as well. So yes, at this point, unless you go with a non-American made, one of the big three, you would have to go into a foreign vehicle for that. At this point,
or electric bicycles.
Electric bicycles, or I believe actually Tesla, delivered their first police vehicle.
Is that right?
Yes, out on the West Coast.
See the hoses on those electric.
I believe.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management for the purchase of new police cruisers.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Resolution 113 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. What we have is a proposed text amendment to Chapter 1156, Table of Permitted Uses within the Planning and Zoning Code. So what we have is the first reading of an ordinance this evening, as Council previously held the public hearing, opened and closed it, pursuant to Chapter 1115 of the Planning and Zoning Code. So how did we get here? The planning and we had a moratorium on commercial recreational uses, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission started that process, and then we had a second moratorium on warehouse uses during that process while the text amendment was playing out. And so why are we here? Well, as part of the comp plan, and Mr. Kennedy referenced the comp plan earlier this evening, one of the primary goals of the comp plan is to protect the Commerce Park as the primary economic engine for the city. And so with that, looking at uses, commercial recreation, non-commercial community recreation, looking at just bulk warehouse, bulk storage, those kind of things. These are not job creator type uses. These are uses that are basically placeholders. And so with that, looking at the zoning code and the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, the text amendment before council this evening was initiated by the Planning and Zoning Commission to specifically address that. And so what this will do is this will basically remove commercial recreation uses out of the industrial district, which they are. If you look at the supplied materials here, and I know there's several tables, but there's the existing table, which you'll note that the uses that we're talking about this evening, commercial recreation was a permitted use, and community non-commercial recreation was conditionally permitted. And then also we had warehousing uses, retail and wholesale warehousing uses were permitted uses. And then in addition to this amendment, target ranges, which are sort of they're recreational uses in a sense, those were principally permitted. And so looking at the proposed amendments, what will this do? What will the practical impact of the amendment? And I would refer you to the red line. And please ignore all the formatting changes. As the theory goes, bold, underline, strike through. If you have the chance to fix a font or a bold or a space, do it now while we're in it. So the real substance of this is if you look at the red line on packet page 56, you'll see that we struck retail warehousing and made that a conditionally permitted use, as with wholesale warehousing conditionally permitted use. And then most importantly of that, and what initiated this to begin with, would be making commercial recreation a conditionally permitted use within our other business corridors, specifically the business retail and business corridor, and then eliminating it from light industrial, and then also striking the conditionally permitted use designation for community non-commercial recreation, again in the light industrial district, and then making target ranges conditional uses. And so what the conditional use does, the conditional use basically gives the Planning and Zoning Commission the opportunity to review those proposals specifically with regard to an impact on the existing facilities
and on traffic, on parking needs, because part of this, when you look at warehousing uses, those are, you don't have a lot of jobs, but you get a lot of traffic. And then when you have the recreation uses, those are typically high trip generator uses. And I having two small children in soccer, I can tell you that in some other community, I'm sure I'm part of the problem because we're having to go to these indoor facilities and generate those trips. So with that, this, if council sees fit to adopt this as recommended by the commission, this will, cement the Commerce Park as our economic engine, protect that influence, prevent potentially incompatible land uses, and provide the Planning and Zoning Commission with an opportunity to review those specific proposals, directly with a specific eye toward, does this fit? And so that's really 5 pages worth of memo in 5 minutes, so or less. So
okay. Any questions, comments? Bateman?
I just I thank you, Mr. Wright. I think you did a really great job of describing that, and also a lot of work in preparing this proposed text amendment. So I appreciate the clarity. At the end of the day, I think this is about us protecting one of the most valuable parcels that we have in our community, and in doing so in a strategic and intentional way, so as to allow the planning and zoning in its current form and future iterations the flexibility to evaluate potential exceptions to this proposal. So I think it's a good way of not necessarily allowing the kinds of facilities that you're describing. That's more akin to an area where you're looking to revitalize, not necessarily create jobs. I think this change enables us to be more reflective of where we are today versus and avoid us going into an area where we have these large industrial complexes that are not being used for their intended purpose. And so we need to do something to jumpstart commercial activity in those, which you see in certain parts of the city, like you described with the different soccer fields or repurposed warehousing. So I think this is a really smart move on a specific instance in the zoning code. Of course, in our P&Z meetings, what this really, when you start pulling on the threads, and Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Wright both preempted this in those meetings, saying, look, this is something we need to address before we do an overhaul of the zoning code, but this is something that we need to do to try to create that prevention and protection measures so that can not stop us from doing that larger work in the future. So again, thank you for your work and for your explanation tonight.
All right. Anyone else with comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Hart.
Do we currently have, or have we gotten any interest from businesses that are looking to purchase that parcel that would fit within this?
We have had inquiries. I guess if you're talking about our vacant parcel, there is a vacant parcel. We had an inquiry on that. We get multiple. We get a lot of tire kickers. That's what people that are out there. They're walking the lot, but they may or may not buy. We've gotten a lot of inquiries. In that same vein, we got a lot of inquiries on the AMP workhorse AMP structure right at the entrance to the Commerce Park, which prompted a look at that facility because it's a fairly large building as well, and wanting to make sure that our appropriate mix of office and job creation, so it just doesn't become a place where people park stuff. I mean, because at the end of the day, you want it to be associated and affiliated with a business. It's going to come to the city. It's going to create jobs. It's going to have and be appropriate in the context of the setting that it sits in. Yeah. I can tell you from practical, personal, professional experience, lived experience. I know of a facility where I live converted industrial building that happened to have clear span. So a lot of these buildings have big big clear spans where you can fit like an indoor field, or you can fit basketball courts or whatever. What you don't see is you don't see the parking yields that you need to really facilitate these types of uses. So, for instance, if you had a 50,000 square foot building, you may be able to physically fit 3 to 5 fields in there, depending on what you're playing, or courts or whatever. But you certainly can't fit the traffic, and if it's going to be profitable, you're not going to be able to fit. It's really 2 times the traffic because they're always turning games over. So with that, you have to deal with the people that are there for the game, and then the people that have to get there 30 minutes early because the coach yells and screams at the parents if they don't have their kids there 30 minutes in advance. So that's really what we're looking at in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think that it protects the city in terms of what we're trying to do from a job creation standpoint and from a tax-based standpoint, but also protects the other businesses that are located there and not having to deal with the traffic and people parking in their spaces. And fighting those battles, those seem like be very problematic in terms of keeping businesses up there. I'm always just interested as people come and go, as they tend to do, maybe like you talked about with the AMP building and then the open parcel up there, what kind of interest we're getting and we're generating in that area.
Interestingly enough, on the workforce building, I think there is a tenant. I don't know if they've made an offer or not, but it would be a professional service organization, like a company that would bring their business here and that would have employees, and they would certainly use that for storage maintenance of their operation, but it would not be that retail warehousing component, or just that, even worse, just the place where boxes go to sit for 6 to 12 months. So that'll be, I think, hopefully that will be fun.
Thank you for your input.
Any further comment or questions? All right, this is a first reading only. We'll go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance amending Chapter 1156, Table of Permitted Uses of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Loveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
So what I have in front of you tonight, which is for our first reading, has been in the works for quite a while. And I think the city council and staff should be commended, because I think when it comes to impacting utility rates, it's something that we take very seriously. We put a little bit of research in, more than a little bit of research. I asked Cindy to sit back in this meeting, because having Cindy available to answer your questions regarding water mains is like having Chief Huber and Chief Gabrielson here to discuss emergency vehicles. So, Cindy, thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. So I think if your goals are any option, your 2021 goals and your 2022/2023 goals both included the wording, explore ways to stabilize the water fund to enable water main replacements. This has been reviewed and actually was placed on Finance-O-Matic of your finance committee. They have a version of your Council-Manic. They have a Finance-O-Matic. And we've been talking about this for a while. I would like to commend Finance Commission member Greg Alsbach, who actually came in and sat with me and went through numbers and really brought some light to it. Definitely up and above the call of duty. So the little background, the city has 76 miles of water main. The industry standard is to replace 1 mile of water main per year. While the industry standard is a good guideline, I think it's important to take into account what different phases of development. Many of you, I was never here, but obviously it doesn't take a genius to know that you guys as a community were very, went through a boom in the 90s and the early 2000s. I did a quick summary based upon any of the mains that were done in that period of time aren't due to be replaced until the mid-2060s. Cindy's got more data than anyone can imagine. I was looking at it today right before the meeting and realized that of your 76 miles of water main, 46.2 miles, which is 61% of your total water mains, were actually were installed in the 1980s onward. Remember, developers put in water mains you accept them. That's why when you see water mains go in on a graph, they're like, wow, look at that city. What were they doing? You weren't doing it. The developers were doing it for you, and you accepted them. So I think that helps bring in perspective. While we definitely need to address our water mains, and we have those on Main Street, some on West, right in front of us. The timing now is the importance to start to put in place a source of funding, very, very dedicated. And I tried to write the code section that way. So rather than, and I think just like you listen to your city engineer when you upped your road program, you're doing that same thing now through your water program. And what we're trying to do is to get ahead of it. I commend this council. I love that chart that shows what you did to the road program. And I know it's an old phrase saying, but you chose not to kick the can down the road on the road program. And what you're doing here tonight is not kicking the can down the road on your water mains. I'm not going to come up and sit in front of residents, whether it's 2 or where it's 30, and say, I'm going to stick it to you for a flat rate fee, or I'm going to get $1 million a year, and we're going to replace a mile a year. First of all, it's not really logical, because you have to coordinate that with road improvement, storm drain improvement, sidewalk improvement, typically, which is 50-50 of your total cost. But what we did want to do was come up with a plan, a protected plan, a protected fee that would put in place a source of funding very dedicated to water main replacement. So what we came up with is creating a water main replacement flat rate fee. It would show up on the monthly water bill. I gave you a sample, just sort of how it would look. It would be a set established fee. This is becoming very, very common. Some people call it their water repair and replacement fee. For me, it was really simple. It should be called the water main replacement fee, because that's what we're doing. We're not touching any of our other reserve funds. Those funds will stay pure to deal with all the other items. Someday you will need a new well. But I would think that you need to also be commended, because you have 5 million gallons at this very moment up in storage, right? That's what Ricky always tells me. 5 million gallons. So you're good storage. I can't imagine in any foreseeable future you're going to be building a new tower. So the focus clearly is replacing water mains and doing it in a manner that is responsive to your residents, but is actually a good amount of money. So what we came up with was the WMR fee, starting with the billings that's due January 2023, and it'd be a flat rate of $7.50 per unit. So what is a unit? A unit is River Ridge Apartments has 132 apartments. That's 132 units. That's 132 times 750 times 12. So McDonald's on Loveland Madeira Roads, that's a unit. So everyone inside the city limits, outside of the city limits, it's per unit charge. That's the fairest way to do it. It would start at $750 in 2023. That would at 5,000 units, which is about what we have. A few more coming here. We should end 2023 with that fund, that line item, with $450,000 in it. That would then carry over into 2024 when it goes up to $8.50, which is $510,000. You should end 2024 with $960,000 in this fund, in your water main replacement fund, and it will end and top out at $9.50 in 2025, which is $570. You should get $570 plus, new homes that you get throughout your life. At $570. So at basically a little over half a mile a year just in water main replacement from that point on. At the end of 2025, if you haven't already done some road water main improvements, you'll have $1,530,000 in your fund. There should be, any resident should be able to walk in. Todd should be able to walk in and say, I want to see the revenue line item for the water maintenance fund. And you can say, here it is. I want to see expenditures from the water main line item, expense line item, and you should say, here you go. It's not going to be water main breaks. It's not going to be, new fire hydrants. We've got all that covered. It's going to be for projects to replace water mains in the city, strategically replace water mains in the city. Main Street and Chestnut was a perfect example. We drug our feet until we could get the water main funded, and that's why that road was the worst road in the city. But we're very lucky because we're very patient. I included something, an illustration on how it impacts the rates. We didn't update this memo, so if you, I changed the memo and we didn't redo it. So it's actually at 2240 gallons, and there's some other things that Corey caught that I spelt wrong. So the correct one is on the internet. So water main replacement fund will not be associated with the water reserve fund. That stays in place. That is there if all of a sudden we need a new motor, anything we need to do. And then I try to illustrate to everyone where we are in the annual rate survey that's very popular in the state of Ohio, where we are today and where we would be with this funding. But the key to me, the key to the whole item is that the key to this whole thing to me is when you say yes on the second reading of this, I would hope that you will never have to ever take on any additional debt service, even 0% loans to do any of your water project. And it benefits the operations side of it too, because if you're not taking on any debt service, which I know this is a shocker, $568,614,000 will be spent out of the water fund for prior debt service. So if we can stop that, and I illustrate that in these with both a chart and a graph, over the course of 12 years, we'll be down to 296. And I actually wish I would have taken that out farther because it's not far where it goes away completely. You will be able to be more competitive with grants because you'll be able to put the cash in, but you'll also be able to look someone in the eye and say, by doing this now, we are less likely. We will be able to preserve the operational side of it and have lesser rate increases to you, because you should be able to survive perfectly fine when you're not paying off that debt service. So overall, it should put you in a wonderful operation because it is an important part of what you do every day. Let's face facts. You would not have the beautiful new Claremont County Park up to the Grail property coming into your city limits if it wasn't for the fact that we said, got annexed in to get our water. It is an important tool for the city. Your treatment, I always tell you there's two sides to it. You got the treatment side and the distribution side. Our treatment side is very simple. It's taken care of. That's what goes on at the Betty Ray plant. We've done a lot of work to keep it safe, and that I won't go into any more detail. Our wells are producing fine. We may need a well at some point in time, but it's all about water mains, and that's why we did that. So I'm gonna, I think I'm just gonna say, because just in case people are listening, in summary, the creation of the WMRFD does not put the city on a path to replace a mile water main a year. It will, though, for the first time in recent history, no longer kick the can down the road and show a formal commitment to addressing the need of replacing water mains in a fashion that does not place undue burden on our water customers. So I would ask you to direct any of your specific questions to Cindy, and she can explain to you why, as a city engineer, this is a good move for us to have this pot of money coming in and for her to begin to strategically plan and locate future water main replacements. So, Cindy, do you want to add anything?
So I do just have one minor correction when you were talking about the industry standard. So industry standard of the expected life of a water main is 80 years, and we have just about 76 miles. That's where our 1 mile replacement comes. If you're a big Cincinnati waterworks, it's going to be more than a mile a year. So that's why we arrived at that number.
Okay.
So that would just be to normalize the replacement schedule. But as Dave talked about with our graph of when pipes were installed, and we have this huge peak in the 80s and 90s, it's going to be tough to normalize it. So we're not shooting for the 1 mile a year right now.
the coordination is key. It's coordinating. Cindy knows everything that's going on in every right of way of the city at every moment. And you think that we don't plan these things out. Why was State Route 40? Why did Cindy drag out the paving on State Route 48 by Blossom Hill? Because she knew that they were running the gas mains in there, and we wanted to wait until it was done. Luckily, we were still able to get it done before the plants closed. Coordinating these with other projects, with future storm drains, is key. You can't simply just say, we'll start here, we'll go there, we'll go there. We know for a fact that MSD is going to work their way down West Loveland, putting in new sewer mains. That's when we'll be coordinating water main replacement. There's a lot that goes on in that head as far as planning and organizing these, and having a steady flow of $570,000 a year that is completely protected is going to really put the city in a good position to make the right decisions on water main replacements. Main Street would have been paved years ago, would have been done years ago.
Okay.
I remember, so.
All right. Any comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Bateman.
The annual debt service chart that you have here, this is like the 568,614. Is that all water main replacement?
No, that's goes back to your Union Cemetery Tower. That has to do with a myriad of different loans. A lot of them are water main replacements. Some go back to 2002. It's quite a bit. I showed the Finance Commission the entire list the other day, and just start knocking them off left and right, and then you'll really be in a golden place when you aren't paying debt service.
Well, to your point on coordination, it's much easier to coordinate when you can fund it yourself, and you're not also having to scramble the funding sources to time up with the different entities and different projects. So, thank you. I think this is it's bold action, and it's time that we take action to be fair, to make sure that this infrastructure is on a path towards replacement.
Any other comments, Mr. Blair?
Wise man plants trees under the shade of which he'll never sit. And following this process puts us in exactly that position. It doesn't prevent us from getting grants to accompany our own money that we bring to the table. To Mr. Kennedy's point, it makes it easier to get the grants because we're putting in our own money. It looks ahead. We're starting a down payment now on activities that will take place in the future, and we're to be commended for that. The method that has been chosen is a flat fee. We have about 5,000 users. We're going to need 5,000 fees to make this work. Your Finance Commission spent a lot of time discussing back and forth various alternatives on how to fund this. But far and away the best, fairest mechanism is we have 5,000 users, we need 5,000 fees. We can afford it. Councilman Bateman suggested earlier this evening, or pointed out earlier this evening, that the budget for 2023 calls for a little more spending than income. We can afford it. I can assure you that the City Finance Commission, excluding yours truly, is a group of wise men who take a great deal of care and diligence in how every dollar gets spent in this city. They have a series of elaborate spreadsheets that mark off red, yellow, or green where we are and whether we can afford this stuff. There are even checkoff points that indicate that we have an excess of reserve funds that would be better put to use. And I think this is one of the best uses that the city's coffers can be put to, is to start a process whereby we are getting ourselves out of this hole in the future. This water main replacement fee is for nothing else but pipe. That's what we're buying. 5,000 connections to pipe. Everything else that has anything to do with water in this city is already covered and accounted for. This is a glaring hole, if you will, that we haven't dealt with, and now we're not kicking the can down the road anymore. I am in deep support of this initiative.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Hart?
I just had two fairly quick things here. One is that I think this is a sound investment. I think that setting ourselves up for the future is prudent. I think that it's easy to have hindsight's always 20/20, as it said. And if this would have been done 20 years ago, maybe this was a $2 fee 20 years ago that ramped up to $4, and we'd be sitting on a truckload of money. I don't want anybody to be able to look back 20 years from now and say, I wish those people would have just charged $7 because now it costs $25 to get to the same place to replace those same things. So putting ourselves in a position to be where we need to be in the future is important. I think that having this debt service worked out and even well past 2034, as Mr. Kennedy mentioned, having a plan and having a vision for where we're going is important. This is not a whim. This is a visionary approach to how to pay for a known issue in our city. And I commend Mr. Kennedy and all staff for taking this action. I also wanted to comment on something that I have been educated upon. Thank you to our city staff about how water mains are they can break at any age, and I think Mr. Scott today said, Mr. Wisman said today that 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, they can break at any age for a myriad of reasons. So age doesn't equal failure in any kind of succinct way. So taking a approach to replacing these things systematically is also having a clear having a clear vision of where we're going with this project, which is a long term project.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'll be quick. This seems financially reasonable and equitable. I'm attracted to the fact that we, instead of incurring debt to make water main replacements and fixes, we can have a dedicated fund that pays for it. And that, I think, is good for our customers and our citizens. The other thing that is attractive to me is I think some 20% of our 5,000 connectors to the water system are people outside the city. So if we took on more debt, that would be for the city paying for a benefit that non-citizens would be enjoying. I think this is fair because they are getting a great water service. They have skin in the game. We have equal skin in the game. We don't have to take on debt. It's a good resolution to a sticky problem that we know exists and we'll need to deal with in the future. And this is a responsible way of doing it, in my mind.
Thank you. Mr. Ori?
Yeah, I agree. This is a very proactive approach to our future, not just bringing in the income to make the repairs, but also eliminating the debt that we are carrying. I mean, in 10 years, we pay off, our debt payment goes down by half. And I think in 15 years, it's paid off, that debt. But then something I wanted to, Mr. Hart brought up Mr. Wisby brought up the fact that water lines don't always just break. And maybe Cindy, you can explain this a bit better than I can. They always don't break because of age. This year, we've had a lot of dry weather, and the earth shifts, and that causes breaks. And so I think it's good for our citizens to know that it's not always the age of the pipe; it's the conditions around the pipe too.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Anyone else? You good? Is that everybody's comments? All right. I would just say I appreciate the staff bringing this to our attention and bringing this proposal to us. We don't ever take lightly putting in place fees, raising fees. That is not something we relish or wish to do to our residents. We really, it is an option of last resort, I think. It's not something we look forward to. But in this situation, I think this makes complete and perfect sense. When you look at us carrying $568,000 worth of debt service that we're paying annually, and that is debt, I think someone said, dating back truly to 2002. So we're talking 20 years ago, a project was done, and we're still paying the debt on that project. And we just keep doing new projects through these last 2 decades and adding on. So as debt fell off, we're just adding more. That is not sustainable. And imagine what we can do with $568,000 a year that we're not paying for debt service. We can then do perhaps when it's appropriate and it works with our road program more than a half mile in a particular year, because you've got that money to spend on it. You've also, instead of with our other part of our fund that we're using to do other capital improvements in our water system, that money not being spent on debt service can be used for that as well. I just think we're putting ourselves in a position where we're ending this absolutely unsustainable plan of just taking on more debt, and it never goes away. We're certainly going to be able to get more done with the money that we have as a result of this. So, and I think it's a balance. I think we tried, I know staff tried very hard in the Finance Commission, and Council would agree, to keep this at an amount that's going to get accomplished what our engineer and city manager and assistant city manager are telling us we need to do, but trying very desperately not to overburden our taxpayers either, because we are not unmindful of those realities. So I think this is a good balance, and I appreciate all the hard work that went into getting us here. So I certainly support this initiative as well. Does that lead to any other comments? All right, can we go ahead and, it's just a first reading, read the ordinance.
Ordinance amending Loveland Code of Ordinances, Chapter 111, Schedule of Fees, Fines, and Other Charges, creating the water main replacement fee.
Thank you. All right, there are various committee minutes and reports. Any comments on those? All right, as far as upcoming events, as you all know, Election Day is tomorrow. City offices will be closed this Friday, November 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. On that day, students from St. Clement will honor the men and women who have served our country on Veterans Day at 11 a.m. at the city's Veterans Memorial. Any other community events coming up can be found on the city's website, loveandlifeloveland.com. Any reports? Anything anybody else needs to say? All right, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Okay. Move to adjourn.
Yep. Second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.